Previously on A Mystery to Me.
This is Sam Van Bogart, the famous detective, and I'm his fiancée. Are we at the right place?
The right place used to be a quarter-mile up the road, but it burned down under mysterious circumstances.
Murder? Why ever would the Major have any reasons to harbor suspicions of homicide?
It's about time somebody answered this door.
Sam, you remember Paul?
Me and Mara had a passionate fling.
Upon his death, intricately folded papers were given to each of the heirs. The treasure is hidden somewhere in this house.
Change your plans, huh, Barry?
No fancy detective is going to stop us.
What was that? I'm from the asylum. I could use a weapon to protect against the mangler.
The master has a shotgun for us.
So you think that the asylum guard could really be the escaped patient? This is a one-time thing until we get our cash flow fixed.
There's somebody in there.
Holy smokes! There's a dead guy in there!
If somebody who isn't the Major is in the coffin, where do you suppose the Major is?
How should I know? The body could be any place.
The killer is...
Who?
Not Thomas! Not Thomas!
Paul. He's dead.
That's what they say. The clues on the Beatles' albums.
I'm not talking about the Beatles, I mean Paul!
I'm fine. I just can't remember anything.
Not Paul Thomas the Amnesiac. Paul Butler the Baker!
Merciful heavens! Is he...
Dead?
Oh.
Well, we found the Major's body.
Oh.
The dead man uttered a final dying clue.
He named his murderer?
No, just the opposite. He told us who didn't murder him.
Excuse me?
He said, "Not Thomas. Not Thomas." And then he died.
Isn't that kind of unusual? I mean, using your last breath to say who didn't do it.
Well, at least it narrows down the suspects.
I'm afraid not.
No?
Did he mean not Thomas Paul? Or did he mean not Thomas Harrison?
So, he wasted his breath, huh?
Let's not be too sure. Look! There's a puncture mark on the dead man's neck.
Dracula! I knew it! I knew it!
Well, at least that's one clue.
Here's another. Less than 40 paces. Take a hard look beyond the trees.
One of the folded clues.
What about this? What do most sitcoms have in common?
What, you mean like Big Bang Theory and Gilligan's Island?
Meaningless clues.
Let's not be so sure. What about this? He had a few forks and a couple spoons. Well, that's no clue.
Definitely not. There's a false lead right there.
Fake news. There's a piece of this puzzle that I just can't see. Mara! I finally figured out the fiendishly clever, finely folded clues conundrum!
Want me to round up the suspects?
Yes, and hurry! Everyone's lives are in danger!
If you're listening to this song, then please know that you have come to a house where not all here will leave alive. This must come as quite a shock, but be brave, pull up your socks, and have some fun. This isn't such a dive. Oh, murder and mayhem and danger fearing and loathing and despair. More murder and mayhem and more danger. Just behind the door or creeping up the stairs. Anybody here could be the killer. It could be him or her or even you. This story's shaping up to be a thriller. So keep your wits and guard your backside too. Oh, what a shelter from the storm. This Tudor house that's far from norm. Gargoyles above, trapdoors below, and more. So you'd better watch your step. Someone's dead. You could be next. But hey, cheer up. At least you won't be bored. Murder and mayhem and danger. Fearing and loathing and despair. More murder and more mayhem and more danger. Just behind the door, creeping up the stairs. Anybody here could be the killer. It could be him or her or even you. This story's shaping up to be a thriller. So keep your wits and guard your backside too.
Where in the devil is that so-called detective?
He'll be in here in a moment.
Well, you said this was important, matter of life and death.
Just a minute, he has to make a grand entrance.
I hope someone can solve this murder before we're all killed.
Before we start, maybe we could simplify the problem of everyone's names?
Problem? What problem?
Oh, we have James Baker the butler, not to be confused with Paul Butler, who happens to be a baker, but some people just say James, but that can mean Harrison James the lawyer. And then we have two Harrisons. Now if you say Forrest, does that mean Forrest Howard or Barry Forrest, the asylum guard? Now some people just say Barry, which could mean Barry the mortician or Barry Forrest.
But those names are spelled differently, aren't they?
How does that help us? How would you know?
Then there's the question of Paul. Thomas Paul or Paul Butler the baker.
Who's Thomas Paul?
You are. Sit there and be quiet.
How is any of this helping us?
I'm just trying to clarify things. Isn't this helping?
I've summoned you all here. Sherry, where's your daughter?
She's roaming the mansion, searching for a cell phone signal.
Bunny! Bunny!
Listen, I hear her.
Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Can you hear me now? Ah!
Bunny, darling, I thought you were dead.
Of boredom.
I've summoned you all here to solve the minor crime.
You mean major crime.
Old Man Minor was murdered, and the murderer is in this very room. Each of you had a motive for killing the major and for shooting Paul.
He was shot? Where?
Right here in the foyer.
That leaves me out. Vern and me didn't even know the man.
Not so fast. I thought I knew those names from somewhere. A police report. You and Vern. Alias Rob. Alias Steele. Alias Tabasco Slim. The gallstone jewels went missing after you entered the Covington home to prepare their prized Pekingese for burial.
The charges were dropped.
Besides, what's that got to do with murder?
I noticed a jackal tuck Mayan blowgun missing above a sus scrofa vivificé.
A what?
A boar.
You can say that again.
You and your assistant could have murdered both the major and Paul Butler.
You can't prove that.
I don't know one end of a blowgun from another. And when it comes to vampires, I don't know how to drive a stick.
So the Undertakers are the murderers.
I didn't say that.
Then they're not murderers?
Well, I didn't say that either.
But do you know who the murderer is?
I do.
Then why don't you just tell us?
That's not how this works. That's not how it's done. First, I need to unmask all the suspects in a lengthy exposition. And then, in a dramatic flourish,
I had no motive.
you handle all of the Major's business affairs.
Yes.
You hated him for building his moving factory on the site of a nuclear waste treatment plant next to a gene splicing factory, didn't you? You tried every legal means to stop him. Injunctions? Depositions?
But doesn't everyone have a motive? Such as you. You hated Paul.
Well, then who the devil did it? I'm certainly no murderer. I was nowhere near the foyer.
Where were you at the time of the murder? Forest?
Me? I was in the basement with Sherry.
Sherry? Is that true?
No. He didn't even make a pass at me.
Not sherry, a dry sherry from the cellar. I couldn't get either of the butlers to fix me a drink. Why should I kill the old man anyway?
What do you do for a living?
I'm a marriage counselor.
Now, how did you intend to repay your gambling debts? To Darlene's grandfather on a marriage counselor's salary.
I'm gonna put my headphones back on. Let me know when something actually happens, so.
Sherry had plenty of motive, didn't you?
You can't prove that, and I know my rights.
And I know my rights. Don't I, Ms. Wright?
What do you mean?
You've been married several times before.
That is not a crime.
Formerly Miss Persephone Finkelstein. Formerly Miss Zap Rousdower. And formerly Miss Sherry Wright.
You're wrong.
If I'm right, then you're right. And that's very wrong. Isn't that right?
What do you mean?
The Major never suspected that his personal secretary was also the favorite niece of his most hated neighbor.
What if it's true?
You believe that the Wright fire was no accident, don't you? You know how much the Major hated your uncle. When your uncle complained the Major's chihuahua was going to the bathroom on his property, the Major rushed out to buy a St. Bernard.
Yes, it's true. But you can't prove I gave business secrets to my uncle. And you can't prove I had anything to do with the Major's murder. And everyone else has as much motive as I did.
Including Forrest's wife, Darlene.
You must be mistaken.
Darlene planned to leave her husband.
Oh, that you don't gasp at.
Darlene planned to run away to Venice or Rome with her beloved Butler.
Which one?
Well, Venice, probably.
I mean, which Butler?
Irene, honey, is this true?
Darlene.
Sorry, third wife, slip of the tongue.
For some time now, I feel that you have taken me a bit for granted.
It brings me to my next point. The maid. Marion. Marion, you took great pains to point suspicion at your beloved Butler.
But Paul Butler is dead.
Not Paul Butler, the Butler. Marion flew into a jealous rage when she learned that the Butler, her longtime boyfriend, planned to run away with Darlene. And a woman's scorn is a powerful, powerful motive for murder.
Could you just please name the murderer?
Each of you had ample motive for the murder of Major Minor, but only one of you is the killer. And the name of the killer is...
Finally!
The name of the killer is...
Ah! Somebody turn on the lights. He's dead.
Not quite.
But you were shot. We heard a gun.
I dropped to the floor to avoid being hit by a poison dart.
What are you talking about? We all heard the shot.
Darling, blowguns don't go bang.
The killer cleverly placed this exploding cigar in an ashtray. And he waited for the explosion. Then, underneath the shadow of darkness, he tried to silence me with a dart that struck the davenport, just underneath the seat in this whoopee cushion.
How did you react so quickly?
Before we met in this room, I noticed that the Major's favorite blowgun was missing from its spot on the wall. The same blowgun that was used to kill Paul!
Paul was killed with a blowgun?
Yes! I noticed a tiny puncture mark in his neck.
Then it wasn't a vampire?
But you still haven't identified the assailant. It could have been anyone in this room.
Oh, but I anticipated the killer's attack. I took the liberty of coating the mouthpiece of the blowgun with the Major's muscle relaxant, the one that numbs completely. Makes it hard to say you're innocent, doesn't it?
It looks like this mystery is about to come to an end. But can we be certain that Detective Van Bogart's trap will work? Will the killer inadvertently reveal themselves? We'll find out in our final episode. But for now, it remains a mystery to me.
Hi, I'm Marty Adkins, president of Knoxville Area Community Theatre. We hope you've enjoyed this episode of A Mystery to Me as much as we've enjoyed bringing it to you. This online presentation is one way KACT has adapted to the current pandemic. The safety of our audience, volunteers, and actors is a top priority for us. Speaking of the pandemic, KACT has been affected just like so many other businesses and community organizations. No live performances have meant no income for KACT in 2020, yet we too have ongoing expenses that have to be covered. If you've enjoyed this presentation, I hope you'll consider making an online donation to KACT at the address shown below. Thanks for joining us for this episode, and watch for our Facebook page and website for announcements about this and other projects. We hope to see you soon.